Okay, today we're going to make a very crude mock-up. It's very helpful for going through your sequence, making sure you're completely happy with the flow of your images. It's incredibly helpful for layout once we get to the computer stage of digitally laying out your pages, specifically with the page numbering. I have this is a finished mock-up, a very crude mock-up that I did for a Coptic stitch book, just to give you an example of a finished piece. You can see as we flip through it, all the images are where they're intended to be, with some just handwritten text for the image captions. You can see that it's not pretty. It's just regular computer paper. Image quality is terrible, but it gives us a good idea of what the image is and where we want to place it. The reason this is important is because when you have a folded set of paper, like we're going to have with our pamphlet, the page numbering on a single sheet of paper may not be consecutive. For instance, the backside of this signature or set of folded paper has a number, page number 2 and page number 7. That's because pages 3, 4, 5, and 6 are inside of that. Okay, so it gets very confusing without this mock-up when you go to lay out your pages on the computer and knowing what is supposed to fall directly across from the other page. So that's why we make this. So the first thing I usually do is print out all the images that you're intending on putting in the book. Size doesn't really matter. They can be much smaller than you expect them to be in the book. Really, they are just a good visual representation of the images. And this is how I often go about sequencing images as well. I'll print out small versions, lay them on a table so I can move them around, see which images work well with other images. You can start to get a bit of a kind of a narrative going on if you want, but mostly which images work best next to each other. This is a good start. The next step would be putting them into the book and making sure they still feel like a logical flow when you turn one page to the next. So I've already done some sequencing with these images, so I kind of know which images I want next to one another. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those in that order real quick so we can keep moving on. So this is how I intended to have it laid out, with quite a few double page spreads and just this one image that's going to stay by itself, so it'll have a little more breathing room on either end of it. So you'll need some paper that you can fold up. Color, size of the paper, again, doesn't matter. You want it to be bigger than the image, folded in half, but that's about it. So I just have some regular blue paper here. We're just going to fold it in half. You need to do that to all sheets. Normally on a book I'd be using a bone folder, but this is just a very crude mock-up, so it really doesn't matter how good it looks. Nobody should see it except for you when you go to lay out your images on the computer. So we can start to see the basic pamphlet structure here. This will be the number of pages in my book based on the number of images I have. I already know that I'm going to have this first top piece as kind of a title page, so we can go ahead and write that in there. It'll look something like that. I'm not going to have anything on this page over here, but I know I want this image right here. So again, it doesn't really matter where you place it. I usually just try and get it in the center. It's much easier to deal with image size, paper size, exact design layout on the computer in terms of where the image is going to fall exactly on the page. So this is really just to give you an idea. So we got that image in there, and this image. So they may not be perfectly straight, doesn't really matter. So again, the most important thing is getting your sequence down here exactly how you want. You might spend anywhere from a few days to a few months determining your sequence. It's helpful to get other people's opinions, I find. So you might come up with your own sequence, have some fresh eyes look at it, see if they suggest any other couplings, pairings, or edits. But once you get that edit down, that sequence, you can pretty much rock and roll on image placement within this mock-up. So again, I wanted to leave this one by itself, so we're not going to have anything over here. Kind of see that, you know, as a kind of a almost a sound break, pause within the book. Kind of mixes things up a little bit. Often if you have the same kind of flow going on throughout the whole book, people often get into a rut and they just start turning pages. So I like to try and mix it up, either add in a double page spread here and there, or do a single image here and there, depending on what the structure of the entire book is. So I've already put some thought into the number of pages in the book, the number of images, so that's why I'm able to do this fairly quickly right now. You'll need to do your own tests and to determine how many pages you want, that kind of thing. And one left. Okay, and on the back side, I planned on putting the artist statement. Okay, so and then there'll be the cover on top of this. On this pamphlet, there'll still be a cover. So this isn't the actual back of the book. This is just the content pages. So then I go through and I number these pages for help when we're laying out the spreads on the computer. Now I'll put a number 1 here, however I'll never put 1 on the actual spread when I design it, but I just need that there so that I know that this is page 1 and this is page 16 when I go to lay it out. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, the most helpful thing you can do with these mock-ups is put these page numbers on there. Not paying attention. And again, I probably won't have a page number on the back here, but I need to put 16 so that I know when I'm laying out this spread that it is page 1 and 16. And you know, my page numbers may or may not go right here when I go to actually lay it out. It's more just to remind me of which page I'm on, but I can put the page numbers anywhere I like once I go to lay it out. So once you have this done, you can go through and flip through your pamphlet as if it was actually a book and see if the sequence still feels correct to you. If it doesn't, you can easily pull these out, move them around. You can make another one very easily if it needs a lot of work. And I leave the whole thing loose like this so that when I go to design the layouts on the computer, I'll just lay it out like this, grab this one and know that on this side of my layout I need to have the artist statement, and on this side I need to have the title page. So I'll lay that one out, I'll save it, and then I'll flip it over and I'll leave this one blank other than maybe a page number, and then I'll have this image here, and then I'll put this off to the side and I'll move on to the next one and do page 14 and page 3, this image and this image. So these, you know, when I'm laying it out on the computer, these two images are next to each other, but when it's actually bound into the pamphlet, they're not next to each other. This is the first image you come upon, and the other one on the other side of that paper you don't get to until the very end of the book. So the laying out on the computer can be very confusing if you don't have one of these. That's why we make it. It's very simple. Take a few minutes, print out small images, fold some paper, tape them in there, and number your pages, and it'll make your life a lot easier on the computer.